Well, hey everybody, let's push the magic button right there. How about that? And we'll get rid of the music. How you doing? Good to see you all. Wow. See a lot of familiar names. And here I am. No cigar though. I thought you'd all get a kick out of that today. The me smoking the cigar. Why hide it? I told you about it months ago, but that was an interesting little video that I made this morning. The story about why I made that and how it came to be. I had no intention of posting a video today because I'm doing the live stream tonight, but I see Jennifer says I don't need a cigar. No, nobody needs a cigar, but I do like them. I do like them. Well, we'll get to that story a little later. First things first, let's say hello to everybody in the chat here. It's here so far. It says I got 45 people so far. That's a much, well, a little bit bigger. I usually start off with about 30 something, then it grows. So good to see you. Everybody having a good day. We're having just monumental weather down here in Florida. It's just absolutely beautiful. I guess some of you saw my little walk around the park here the other morning, and it really was. It was without a doubt the most beautiful morning so far after the summer. You know how that first, I don't know if you probably had it a while ago up north, but down here in Florida on that first morning when you go out there and it's just a little over 60 degrees and you feel that nip in the air, and we wait for that all summer. All right, so we got drone shots. Jody, how you doing? Good to see you, my friend. Mama Cracker was here early. Matt Hawkins, hey buddy to you too. Johnny Drone Flyer, good to see you. A lot of my old drone guys from when this used to be a drone channel are still hanging around. And for those of you that don't know, all those old videos are still there. So if you were to go into your browser and just find the all uploads button and just start scrolling down, you'll go back to some 4 or 5 year old stuff. See if you recognize me back then. Matt Hawkins. Jennifer from Texas, how you doing, Jennifer? Good to see you. Maddie's Drone World. Rocket 99, how you? Rocket's a prolific commenter on the videos. And Linda G, good evening to you. COA 106, John, how you doing? I'm trying to remember all these names. I'm not great with names. I'd like to say or use my age as an excuse, but I never could remember names even when I was younger, so I can't say it's age. It's just normally it takes a little while for me to associate them with people, and these names are coming at me hot and heavy these days. Richard Lees, Vancouver today, sunny. Oh, how you doing? Mr. Rogers, PBS Music, 29 Stump said, that's great victory. Hi, Mitch. Who else we got here? Cliff Medina. Hi, you, Cliff. How you doing? And good to see you, Sandra McDonald from Australia. Hi, Sandra. They're green in the chat because they're members of the private community that we have. And I'll get the pitch out of the way early. We have a support the channel type thing. $3.99 a month if you want to help me out and partake in some of the little extra activities that we have going on. Right now, I think I've got just about 30 members in that thing, and it's growing slowly. It's the first time I ever did something like that. I had no idea how fast it was going to grow at all. I just thought YouTube kept pushing me. You know, I would get emails and everything. You should do this. You should do this. So I did it, and we've had 2 live streams on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock where I actually post a link in the chat where you click on the link and you'll be able to, like a Zoom call, come in and we get together. I think we had 3 people in it last week, and it was a lot of fun. And we talked. It lasted about an hour and 45 minutes, and it's like being in a room with people. And we really enjoyed it. And I also, for those of you who don't know about it, I wrote a book about 20 some years ago that never went anywhere. I thought it was a great book. Of course, I would. And any of the members in the community are going to get a link to download a free copy of it if they want, if they'd like to read it. Some people are going to read it and not understand it. Some people are going to read it, disagree with a lot of things I say. But I didn't do it for the money. It was a labor of love, and it's been sitting for 20 years. I think maybe a couple thousand people actually read it. That's not a big audience for that much work, but if you join the private community, you'll get a link to that. You'll see links for the private online chats that we have pop up, and I hope you join. I hope you try it out. If you don't like it, cancel it. That easy. But I hope you'll like it. So we'll get that out of the way. Let's get my little disclaimer out of the way before we get started talking about diet and health and all that other stuff. Y'all know I am not a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor. And nothing that I say here is medical advice whatsoever. I try not to give medical advice. I don't want to be responsible. We do talk about the carnivore diet. I think I know a lot about how to make that work, because I did for myself after a lifetime of failing. I finally made it work, and I understand why it works. And hopefully I can steer some of you that may be going off course a little bit back on course, or answer some questions along those veins. But I can't help you with your blood tests or your diseases or whatever conditions you're trying to get over, other than give you encouragement and a little get well soon, whatever it may be. Let's get back to the chat here. Where did I leave off? B81 Mac, hey, how you doing? And Craig Smith is here. Oh, there's Craig. Hi, Craig. How you doing? TS, go Birds, he says. Cigars are fabulous, says COA 106. Good. Russell Glarum is here. Eat more meat. Yes, sir. YouTube hate channel smoking. Hit them hard usually. Really? I haven't noticed that. I'm not going to be smoking too much on YouTube. In fact, that may be one of the very few times you see me with a cigar. But I got to tell you, didn't I look relaxed? I mean, honest, didn't I just look relaxed? I was. That's, to me, and I had a doctor tell me this years ago. He said that if you don't inhale, yeah, you get a little secondhand smoke, but there's always been controversy over whether that's going to give anybody any real problems. I imagine if you were brought up in a bar where people were smoking all the time, maybe, but I don't get enough of that. I don't inhale, never smoked cigarettes. And he said that the hour or two of relaxation that you get, just calming down, the stress relief, the benefits of that, he's told. And it's a doctor. And, not that we have all that much respect for doctors, but he told me that that the benefits of the stress relief, the relaxation, slowing down, chilling out, it just outweighs any potential risks. And the men in my family who lived over 100 were all cigar smokers. That's where I got it from. So, we'll talk a little bit more about that lifestyle thing, and we all do a few things that, like I talked about this morning in that video, we all do things that maybe we shouldn't do, maybe they're dangerous. But you got to live. You got to live. And my criteria for things like drinking coffee and even smoking the cigars is that regardless of whatever they do, they don't interfere with the biochemistry of the diet, which is my main objective. There's no calories, there's no sugar, there's none of that stuff. Yeah, there's chemicals and all kinds of stuff, but God, just go outside and breathe the air these days. You're getting the same stuff or worse. So we do the best we can. Jennifer, my grandpa passed from emphysema at 20 after quitting smoking. Yeah, well, I know a lot of people that are cigarette smokers, my mother included, and I grew up with it. I grew up with her smoking in the house. She didn't. That didn't kill her, but non-Hodgkin's lymphoma did at age 66, which was very young. Yeah, maybe the smoking had something to do with it. Maybe the fact that she was a type A nervous wreck all her life and very high-strung, needed uppers, needed sleeping pills, if she lived out of a pill bottle, she'd always have something wrong with her, and it was a shame. It was a shame, but that stuff takes its toll. So my idea, of course, is no medicine. And as long as I can live, eating what I eat, being happy, not being tortured by the fact that I'm not addicted to those things, or my addictions are laying dormant and they don't bother me. I'm very happy. I'm very happy with this stuff, and I'm going to puff away on my cigars. If they kill me tomorrow, so be it. That happens to you when you get to be 76, I guess. I didn't think that way when I was 60, but I've watched all my friends pass, a lot of them younger than me, and somebody in one of the comments today actually said, if we can hang on another 10 years, this science will figure out how to reverse aging and make all of us young again. I don't know if that's a little optimistic. Yeah, could that happen someday? There's still so many things about the human body we don't understand. And God knows what the ramifications of something like that might be. And I thought to myself, with the way the world's going and the people are getting crazier and crazier, is it even going to be a pleasant place to live? And how much technology is it going to take to do something like that? And are we going to end up being robots or the bionic man? Are we going to have things implanted? Are we going to be connected to them? Well, I don't want to do that. I have no desire to live forever or be immortal. And then what are we going to do with all the people that don't die? Next thing, we'll have 100 billion people on this planet. And I don't know. Not something for me. So long after I'm gone, whatever they do, I wish them all the best of luck. Not that they're going to remember any of this. Margaret Bien is here. How you doing? Good to see you. Where'd I leave off here? This thing is going by too fast. Bill and Marilyn Cox, how you doing? You're in your 70s as well. Wow, got a bunch of, all of us old farts are getting together tonight. Everybody, just for fun, if you don't mind, put your first name and your age into the chat, and I'll see if I can't maybe match up a few names with screen names. But I'm curious to see the age spread of the people that we have here, so I'd appreciate that. M2M Games, sup, Mitch? How you doing? Cranky Carnivore Cutler. Okay, my sugar-addicted spouse and her processed carb gorging mom attempted their own intervention with me over my fasting, sadly. Ironic. Yeah. Well, they all think, listen, that's all they know. That's all they know. If a doctor is going to do it, you can't blame your people that aren't even in the medical profession for recommending what they think is right because they've heard it all their lives from all the doctors. We got Randy K. Hey, Randy, how you doing? Good to see you, Randy. Met Randy in the live stream last Thursday. He's a over-the-road trucker, and he chimed in on our chat from his truck out there. And that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. Matt Hawkins says, leaner fat cuts of meat, which is better? Well, in order to really do proper carnivore, you have to have fat. And that's one of the mistakes, one of the reasons a lot of people who start it, and they think they're doing it right because they're eating nothing but meat and animal products. But we've been so ingrained with this fat is bad message all our lives, and everything out there is low fat. And the stores, if you go into the grocery stores or Sam's Club, you notice that they prioritize mostly lean cuts of meat. You find a lot more 90-10 hamburger than you find 80-20. And I have to go to Aldi's to get the 73-27 stuff. And if you could get 70-30 even, it would be better. So the answer to your question is, and we'll talk about it in terms of calories, you should get 70%, if not closer to 80, depending on how you take to it, percent of your calories from fat. Now, lean meat still has fat in it, so it's not like you have to actually just eat fat and not the lean. But if you take a cut of meat like a ribeye steak, it's probably got the perfect ratio of fat to lean. Bacon is perfect. Eggs are absolutely the perfect mixture of virtually everything that you need to be nourished on a carnivore diet or a keto diet, or any diet actually. Inside that egg is everything that's needed to build a chicken. And when you think about a chicken breaking out of an egg, there's not a molecule at the point that that chicken exits the egg. There's not a molecule in that living chicken that wasn't in that egg when the hen laid it. It is like nature's perfect multivitamin pill. Has every amino acid, every vitamin, every mineral, everything that we need, which is why I eat eggs every day. 4, 5, 6 eggs every day. And half a pound of bacon. Bacon is another misunderstood food. Most of you guys know this. The fat that's in bacon is mostly monounsaturated. It's the same kind of fat that they tell you why avocados are so good for you. It's very, very healthy fat. Bacon has got potassium in it. It's got all kinds of good stuff in it. And the nitrates and nitrites that they warn you about. I mean, if you don't believe me, go watch Ken Berry's video where he explains exactly why those things are, not only are they not harmful, but they're actually good for you and help you produce nitrogen oxide in your blood. And that's a good thing and a desirable thing, something that people shoot for. Just eat more bacon. So bacon and eggs is like one of the healthiest meals you can eat. Beef, of course, has everything. Chicken and pork tend to be way too lean. So you have to supplement them with some fat. You have to try to eat the chicken with the skin on, because the skin is where all the fat is. You can get fattier cuts of pork, ribs, things like that. Those are great. Bacon. But the pork tenderloins that everybody buys, that's very, very lean. Not that it's bad for you, but you need to make sure you add fat with that. So that's the answer to that question. You can't eat too much fat. And whenever you talk about fat, you inevitably have to have the bathroom talk. Let me have a sip of water before I have the bathroom talk. You have a built-in meter. Oh, M2M MGAM. A super chat. Thank you so much. Hey, Mitch. Let me see if I can put that up on the screen so everybody can see it. There you go. Okay. Hey, Mitch, can you list out or describe all the careers or fields of study you have under your belt? Like a pilot's license, certification, jobs. Thanks. Have a ribeye on me. Thank you so much. I got asked that question on my first live stream, and I took 30 minutes to answer the question. I don't know if I can do it briefly, but I will. What I want to do first is I want to get back, and thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Let me get to the bottom of the chat here. I'm almost at the bottom of the chat. And just make sure I said hello to everybody. I don't see a lot of names and ages in there, so evidently I see Richard R. is 70-year-old, 77. Alan Landis, 77 years. Retired trucker of 41 years. Man, you retired as a kid. So you'll pardon me if I have a little trouble keeping up with all the chatting that's going on and trying to maintain a train of thought here. Anthony Mason, how you doing, Andre? Andre's found all the icons. Bill and Marilyn Cox, you and Dr. Burry on a video. You know, I don't want to. So many people, when they get on YouTube, and I can understand why, and it's all about trying to latch on to the coattails of people with hundreds of thousands of followers and either bring them on their videos or somehow get interviewed and on their videos. What a lot of them do is they make a video about one of them, let's say Ken Burry. They'll take some excerpts, short clips of things he's said, and they'll plaster a picture of him on the thumbnail, and they'll use his name in the description. It's not illegal. I can't blame people for doing that. Sometimes they get tens of thousands of views on those videos because that is something that people will click on. People, you know, that's the whole purpose of a thumbnail and a good description. You're useless on YouTube if nobody clicks on your videos, even if they don't stay. And the average time that people spend on your videos usually hovers around 40 to 50%. And if you get 60% of the people to watch your video all the way to the end, you are a YouTube superstar. So, but they do that kind of thing. And I have been trying to do this on my own. I got an invite from Bart K about 5-6 weeks ago, and I went on his channel and did an interview, and that was fun. I was also on with Curry from Homestead How, and he's a big YouTuber. We got along just great, but we haven't talked since. He's busy. I'm doing my thing, and I have not reached out to any of the main names in our space saying, hey, I'm here. And I've got a good story to tell, I think, and I would make an interesting guest. I just don't want to presume. If they contact me, I would be honored, and I'd love to have a video with Ken. I met him. He's the guy that pretty much got me started in this. Met him in Orlando 3 months ago and cornered him and talked about this, and he encouraged me to do it. He put a comment on my first video that I had out there, and I thank him for that. He's commented on a few of my other videos, and you know, he's got this book called Kicking Ass After 50, and on the video where I did the push-ups in the front, he put a comment in there that said Kicking Ass After 75. So he knows who I am, and but he is so busy, and he's a good guy. And I would love to do something someday with him. But I need to get a few more miles under my belt on this YouTube thing. My channel's grown incredibly fast for as old as it is, and I'm very thankful for that. But Ken, if you're listening, I'm here. Email me. There you go. Uh, I I get off on these little tangents, so you guys will just have to let me wander. That's how my mind goes, like in a maze, wandering from, into different rooms. Anybody talking to me in the chat, or are you just talking to each other? Clickbait. Yeah, clickbait. You know, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You have to, it's like marketing. You have to go out there and say, hey, over here, you got to watch this. So you have to try to create curiosity without being obnoxious about it. But the main rules is whatever you're advertising, you better deliver. And that's where people they'll put up a title that says one thing, and then you watch half the video and there's nothing at all in the video that resembles the title. So you have to learn, and that's one of the hardest things about doing this. There's so much to know. You got to be a photographer, you got to be a script writer, you got to be a technician, you got to be a producer, you got to know how to work. You got to know how to work all of this stuff and push which buttons to push. You got to know how to market. You got to know, and then you got to be the talent. You got to sit down in front of the camera, and you got to talk to people like a performer might, like a professional news anchor might. And that's a lot of different personalities, and you really got to you got to hand it to these people, because whether you all know it or not, I'm a regular guy. I mean, I'm the guy you run into at the grocery store. This is, we're not living in some mansion in Hollywood. This is a bunch of regular people working, just got a bedroom set aside, turned it into a studio, so bought a few cameras. It's been my good fortune to be having been involved in technology my whole life, that this comes very natural to me. And I'm an introvert with a very outgoing personality, which, if that makes any sense. Somebody gave me a compliment here. Mitch, you have many specialties. Open Mind says you're a natural at this YouTube thing. Well, thank you. Thank you. You want to laugh. Go back way 4 or 5 years ago on the videos. You'll get back into all my drone stuff, because I've only been doing this carnivore for 3 months now. And you'll get back into that drone stuff, and you watch how I was in the very beginning. I have between the live streams and the videos, 300 to 400 videos out there in this channel on YouTube. And you get better at it. You get more comfortable at it. The main thing that you get is you get a mental picture of the people you're talking to. So you're talking to people. You're not just sitting here talking to a computer screen with a camera peeking over the top. And it takes a while. It takes a while to get that, especially if you do it solo like this. Mama Cracker says, what's the genre of my book? The genre of my book is a lot like what I talk about here. It's kind of a journey of how nothing became something, and the message of the book is how our human behavior developed, and why we do so many of the things we do. But the book is a lot like me. I wander into different areas in different chapters, and I talk about things like the sixth sense, which everybody has experienced, these mysterious feelings that we get. I actually try to explain them all kind of scientifically in the book. I did a lot of research for that book too, but it never went anywhere. I just felt like writing it, so I did. I want to answer the question that I got here about what my background is. without going into a half an hour thing. I was never a great student when I was young. I was smart. I had around 155 IQ. When I was in 6th grade in school in Philadelphia, I could get good grades without ever cracking a book. It turns out that they picked 30 children from the entire city of Philadelphia out of the 6th grade. The 30, what they called gifted children. Even back in those days, I was a smart ass. They told me I was a gifted child. I asked where my gifts were, you know. You're all supposed to be laughing at that. I'll be here till Tuesday. It is Tuesday. And they sent us to a special school, and we were supposed to complete 3 years of middle school in 1 year, which means that instead of going into high school in the 10th grade, I would have been going into what would amount to the 8th grade. And the 7th grade would have been 3 years of junior high for me. So I started going to the special school, and I had to get on a bus, then a subway, then another bus. I was a 6-year-old kid. I had to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and head out in the dark to get to school on time. It was just too dangerous and too much for me. So I after about 6 months of that, I said, just put me back in regular school. My mother agreed, so we did that. But I went to college, and I just quit. I was just bored out of my mind. I never learn things if somebody's trying to teach me. I learned everything I've learned in life, researching, reading, questioning. My philosophy about teachers is, yes, they're teaching me this stuff, but I've already caught them so many times teaching me stuff I already know is wrong. And if you look at the state of our society now, that's where the problem comes from. Why doesn't a dietitian know that meat is good for you? Because whoever taught that dietitian taught her that meat was bad for you. So just having an education doesn't mean you're going to be able to do any good with it, because the way it's gone these days and what they're teaching kids in school is more of an indoctrination than an education, is that all they're learning is to toe the government line and push the agendas of all these big drug and food companies, especially in the medical profession. And you know that every time you talk to a doctor and you're perfectly healthy and he wants to prescribe 6 drugs for you. I figured that out when I was 12 years old, that these people teach in school were dummies. It was an old saying I heard when I was a kid, and that was, them that can do, them that can't teach. And that's what happened. Any of the real brains and successful people, they weren't going to go to work as a teacher for teacher's salary. They were going out into the business world. They're going to make themselves some money. So I never had much respect for most teachers. And most teachers just toe the company line. They've got, they don't even write their lesson plans. Those lesson plans are handed to them. Yeah, Jennifer says the dietitians are trained by the Seventh-day Adventists. Right, the whole Loma Linda University is all Seventh-day Adventist, and Loma Linda's where all these vegan studies somehow miraculously come from. So I might have been the most cynical 12-year-old kid on the face of the earth, but that's how I started out life. I went to college. I was bored. My mother wanted me to be a doctor. I didn't want to work that hard. But I was always curious, and I always studied. I always wanted to know how things worked. And I took an interest in biology and cellular biology. I just took an interest in the human body and how fabulously complex it was. I started studying this stuff back when I was in my late teens, and I couldn't get enough of it. And I was learning more about that than the med students were learning. But I enjoyed it. It just fascinated me. It's brilliant, brilliant stuff. I went in the Army. for 4 years, and I ended up in electronics and managed to travel a little bit around the world, went to Turkey and Germany for a few years. And when I got out of the Army, I had started to fly airplanes when I was in the Army. And I got all my ratings. I got my private license, my commercial license, my instrument rating, my flight instructor's rating, my instrument flight instructor's rating, and I decided I wanted to be an airline pilot. This was in about 1970. So here comes Mitch. He's got all his licenses, but the Vietnam War was wrapping up and thousands of military pilots were hitting the job market with tens of thousands of hours in heavy turbine jet time. And here comes Mitch, who I could fly a light twin or something like that, but I couldn't compete for the jobs. And then a big recession came along, and that was the end. That was the end of the airline career. So then, having had an electronics background from the no, I didn't even start with electronics then. I decided that I was going to go into construction at the time. So here I am. I'm almost a doctor, almost a doctor level biochemist in my head. I'm a commercial pilot with about 900 hours of total time and flight instructing time. And what do I want to do? I figure I got to make a living here, so I'm going to become a builder. And I knew somebody. I lived near St. Pete, Florida, at the time, and there was a guy I knew had a swimming pool company, and I'm an outgoing guy, and I'm probably a pretty decent salesman because I'm an honest guy, but I get along with people. I can read them, and I know what they want, and I just want to do the best for people. Whether it's a fault or a blessing, I don't know. But whenever I deal with people, I want them to be happy that they dealt with me. I don't like to try to screw people out of money or anything like that. I just want them to be thrilled with me. Don't know why, just built that way. So I went to work for him as a salesman selling swimming pools. So now I'm running around, and this is in the early 70s, and I'm mid-70s. I'm running around drawing out swimming pool designs, coloring them and making them fancy, and I'm selling swimming pools like they're going out of style and making a lot of money. And the next thing I know, I'm a partner in this swimming pool company. And we did real well. There were 3 of us that were partners, and we did real well. And we built a lot of pools around Clearwater, St. Pete, Florida. And the construction business was great. I learned everything I could about it. And then a big economic downturn came in the late 70s. Interest rates, remember Jimmy Carter, if you were all around, and the interest rates went up like screaming high. And nobody could afford the interest rates to finance a pool. And there's nothing we could do about it because people weren't paying cash for these things. They were taking second mortgages on their house. And the economy kind of put us out of business. And at that point, I said, okay, now what am I going to do? And that's been the story of my life. Okay, now what am I going to do? So then I decided, well, I love electronics. The personal computers about that time were just starting to come out. Radio Shack was selling the TRS-80, and Apple had their first computers out. And I bought one. I had to have it. I'm such a gadget freak. I bought one. I bought one of these computers and learned how to program it myself. Again, never went to school for any of this stuff. I learned how to program it. I learned with my electronics background from the military and the way my silly head works, I figured out how to program these things and make them do things that are useful. And I wrote a complete accounting system for the Radio Shack Model 2. At that time, there was no accounting system for the Radio Shack Model 2 for businesses to use. All they had back then were spreadsheets and word processors. They had VisiCalc, and I forget the name of the word, WordPerfect maybe. It's a long time ago. So I started writing some custom programs for some businesses, and one thing led to another. Next thing you know, the Radio Shack computer super centers found out about me, and my phone's starting to ring. Hey, Mitch, we got a customer that'll buy a whole bunch of these computers if he can get some software that they need. One of those customers happened to be a church. So I ended up writing a whole software suite to manage all the business and doings and membership of a church, and started selling a lot of this software, and started making good money at that. So now I'm a computer programmer, swimming pool builder, pilot, electronics guy, doctor, biology major. That was, and I wasn't even 30 yet. Well, then computers started to advance. IBM came out with the personal computer. They started to take over. Radio Shack didn't have anything to offer anymore. And there went my little software business. So now what am I going to do? At that point, I had divorced from my first wife, and I'd moved to Orlando because that's where most of my computer and software customers were, in Orlando area, as opposed to over in St. Pete. Since I was single, I just moved to Orlando. So I found myself in Orlando, divorced guy, and I met another woman, and we got married. And then I still was doing a little software, but then the subject of where we're going to, we're going to live somewhere. So she decided she wanted, a house. So I said, well, I know enough about construction. I'll just build us a house. I'll pull the permit as an owner, because you don't have to be a contractor to pull a permit to build your own house. You just can't sell your services to somebody else. So we hired an architect. We had this palace-like thing designed that some builders would be afraid of, but not me. I mean, I'm the guy that somebody says, Mitch, can you do this? Yeah, hey, no problem. And then I figure out how to do it afterwards. So I ended up building this big, beautiful house. And other people saw that house, and they said, wow, that's great. So I went and took all the exams and the tests in Florida, and I got myself a general contractor's license. And for the experience part of building, it turned out that my partnership in the pool company qualified me for that. So I studied on my own. I didn't go to any of these courses. I took the test and I passed it. Next thing you know, Mitch is a Class A general contractor. That is the highest contractor's license that you can get. I could build bridges and skyscrapers with that license, even though I had no idea how, but I could build houses. So I became a home builder. This was about 1984, 1985. And I started building these big houses in these big estate sections of the big subdivisions where all the rich people were buying houses. And I built a bunch of spec houses. And then 1987, 88 came along, and the economy crashed again. And Mitch was left with millions of dollars worth of unsellable houses anymore. And I went broke. That's the first time I went broke. So I picked myself up. Are you all sad you asked me where I learned what I learned? I hope not, because it was quite a ride. Anyway, here I am. Got a big house, big mortgage, in trouble. Right about that time, the IBM clone business, right about late 80s, was starting to really take off. Dell computers started, was building computers, but people were buying the components themselves. They were buying, and a lot of you probably built your own computer. They were going out and buying the motherboards, buying the cases, power supplies, memory chips, processors, disk drives, and all the keyboards, everything that goes into an IBM clone. And I said, you know what? I think that would be something that there might be some money in. And at the time in Orlando, the main paper there, the Orlando Sentinel, would let you run a classified ad. It was 3 lines for 3 days for $10. We had a store called Computer Warehouse near where I lived, and a Pakistani guy owned it. And it was a small store, and he had shelves full of motherboards and cases and all that stuff. And his name was Mohammed. So Mitch went to Mohammed, and I bought enough components to build a half a dozen computers. And at the time, they were still 286s, if you can remember that, with kilobytes of RAM and floppy disk drives, maybe a 10 megabyte or 20 megabyte hard drive. That was just ancient stuff compared to what we have today. In Computerland stores, these computers with IBM name on them were selling for $6,000. So it cost me about $1,400 to buy all the parts. So I would sell them for close to about $3,000. And it was pretty much the same computer as an IBM at half the price. And I put my little ad in the paper, and I started selling these things like you'd think they were going out of style. I did that for almost a year. When I look back at my life, in that 1 year, I made more money than I have in any year since, and I've made money. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy, because what happened was I'd sell a computer to somebody that saw my ad and checked out a few references and I built it for them exactly what they wanted. And it turns out some of these people, of course, worked for bigger companies. So my phone starts to ring. Hey, Mitch, what? Can you supply 100 computers? No problem. And then I figured out how afterwards. I rented the first floor of an office building in Orlando, in Winter Park, and hired some guys that I knew that knew computers. And I got a line of credit at my bank. Back in those days, you actually had banks that could do stuff like that. You can't do that. It's very hard to do that these days. But I got pretty much an unsecured line of credit. I went out and I bought all the pieces and parts, and I had all these guys assembling it, and we built ourselves a company. And that company, over the next 15, 20 years, went on to become one of the largest privately owned technology companies in the area. We ended up having the contracts for 13 complete school districts in 13 counties in Florida and cities. And we were there and put in all the network infrastructure for the schools back when they were all building, when the schools were first putting computers in and building computers by the thousands. And things never stay the same in this world, and things were starting to change, and the politics of technology in these big school districts were going to what they call Tier 1. And Tier 1 means big national companies. You have to buy IBM's, Dell's, Gateways. You have to, the school system. And I, of course, couldn't provide them. So seeing as I had all these customers, it wasn't a big stretch for me to hook up with Compaq. And I became what they call certified Compaq education partner, which was a great deal for me. I loved it because I didn't have to build computers anymore. I just got paid commission. In other words, if a school district ordered $5 million worth of computers, they paid me 15% of whatever I sold. And I had to install them, service them, configure them, image the hard drive. I had to get the networks. I had to do all that other stuff, but I didn't have to deal with a billion screws and cases and motherboards anymore. And that worked out great for a couple of years. And I liked it. Right until Carly Fiorina and Hewlett-Packard came along and bought Compaq. And these things happen, out of the blue, and there's nothing you can do about them. So Compaq Computers was bought by Hewlett-Packard and Carly Fiorina. And over the next 6 months, Hewlett-Packard, one by one, engineered all my customers away from me to deal direct with them, because the way they work was not through a network of dealers. Any customers that are that large, they deal with directly. So they just devastated my company. All my big customers were gone. I had all this overhead, all these employees, and Mitch went broke for the second time. Because I liken that to standing on the beach when a 300-foot tsunami comes along. I don't care how nimble you are on your feet, you're dead. So I lost the computer business because you just can't recover from something like that. The whole playing field changed. So here I am again, paying off all these debts, and you only have some. I made a lot of money, but I had to pay. I had to live and pay off a lot of debts. I tried to reimagine the company, which means I kept a bunch of employees on for a couple of years trying to find new areas of business, but the technology business has just been completely taken over by China and everybody else. And it wasn't like the good old days when I could build 5-10 computers a day in my spare bedroom and make a fortune. So then I said, now what am I going to do? This was 2004. Divorced the second wife. My father used to say, when poverty comes through the door, love flies out the window. Very true. And had a friend that had a restaurant, a little seafood restaurant down in Naples. It was the best seafood on the planet Earth. They did fish and chips, but gourmet stuff. The name of it was Grouper and Chips. And I used to drive to Naples just to eat at his restaurant. He had it was fabulous. It was just a step above a hole in the wall, but he made terrific money. And I said to him, why, there's nothing like this in Orlando. Let's open a chain of these things. And we talked about it and came to terms, and we were going to be equal partners in it. And he was going to handle the restaurant side of it, because what the hell do I know about running a restaurant? And I'm going to handle all the business side of it, the construction of the restaurant, of the stores, the leasing arrangements, and the marketing, and all the technology, and all the stuff that I knew. And this was in 2005, 2004. I went and I rented 2 commercial spaces in really almost Walt Disney-like type developments. It was gorgeous. They weren't built yet, unfortunately, but you have to rent those things a couple of years in advance. And I put down a bunch of money and signed contracts. And they started work on my first restaurant, and they got the shell of the building up and the roof on it. And they said, okay, Mitch, you can start your build out now. And so I don't know if you guys know what it takes to put a restaurant kitchen in, but I put a kitchen in this restaurant, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, huge range hoods, fire suppression systems, gray water treatment, crazy, the health department and all their regulations and stuff you have to deal with. And all of a sudden the construction stops on the building I'm in. What happened? Oh, the owners of the complex sold it off to some real estate trust in California. So we're not involved anymore. So, sorry, see ya. So I sat there in my half-built restaurant for a year and a half while they got their ducks in a row and they actually started building. Long story short, I managed to get the restaurant open about 5 minutes before the economy crashed in 2008. And that was the end. And I managed to keep it open for 2 years. But I was in a subdivision where everything around me wasn't built. The parking lot where my customers were supposed to park wasn't built, and it was impossible, and I couldn't do it. So Mitch went broke again. And takes us to about 10 years ago, when I decided that's it, I've had enough, and got depressed and pretty much dropped out, and just started doing computer work and programming and web stuff and computer graphics, and all this time through all of these different businesses, I never stopped, and this is the point, I guess, of all this story. I never stopped studying and trying to figure out how the human body works, because I always had a weight problem. I was always on a diet. I was always failing. And I was there when Atkins came out with his first book in 1972, and that got me on the low-carb bandwagon, and that's why I never weighed 300 pounds. The most I ever weighed was hovering around 200, 210. I managed to stay pretty healthy all my life and keep my weight reasonable, but I never made it. I never got athletic. I never got muscular. I was always the chubby little, the chubby guy, not athletic, not muscular, fighting the weight problem, carb addicted as hell. And 20 years ago, I wrote this book, and a lot of what I wrote was trying to, explain why that was all happening to me. And I learned a tremendous amount about it. And I understand at a level most people don't in our space, especially most YouTubers that are just guys that went on a diet and lost weight, and they know the rules of a carnivore diet. But I actually, if somebody had the time and their eyes wouldn't glaze over like a deer in the headlights, I can actually explain it to you molecule by molecule and take you through so many of these systems in the body: glycolysis, the citric acid cycle, the Krebs cycle, the Randall cycle, the electron transport chain, how mitochondria make energy, what molecules interact with other molecules, how it all works. I know that stuff. That's why I did that video the other day where I put in some of those animations that show the just incredible complexity of the little machines that are doing all this work every minute in our body. To me, that is just fabulous. And I understand that. I also understand evolutionary psychology, which is something you don't usually hear about. And that explains so many of the ancient things that we have buried in our programming. And being in the computer business and writing programs and knowing and learning how machines take code and perform tasks with them, the comparisons to the living machinery that we are fabulous. And I understand how the processors in the computers work. Register to register inside. I understand all that stuff. I've put it all together in my head. And I have a vision of the human body as a basically organic computer, still more fabulously complicated than the most complicated technology that we have these days. Even though that may perform things faster, the intricacies of the way the human body and biochemistry work are still not completely understood, which is another reason why I'm so animate against them fooling with these basic systems and hormones and all that stuff. And this GLP-1 agonist, Wegovy, Ozempic, I think are, Franken drugs. I think those things are, there's already so many scientists saying don't do it, $1,000 a month shot. And the minute you get off of it, all the weight's going to come back, and and half the weight you lose is going to be muscle. They've even given people with that gaunt look in their face, they call that Ozempic face now. But they keep doing this stuff because these drug companies, they think they know it all. They think they're that smart. And that's why I finally settled on this diet, on the carnivore diet. I understand, and thank goodness we have some people like Anthony Chaffee who tell you plants are trying to kill you, because plants they don't want to be eaten. They're living things. They have evolved these defense chemicals, and these things. I had a comment today I'm sorry, guys. I can't. I'm doing this and I'm not following the chat. If you're talking to me in the chat, I apologize. I get off topic, but I'll finish this. At any rate, I have learned a lot about this stuff, and I have a lot of insights into it, and it's very hard in this world to make people understand that, because sometimes I would need to find somebody that at least knows some of what I know, and there's a lot of people out there, or have put together some of the wild concepts that I've. If you ever read my book, you're either going to look at me like I'm crazy, or the book's going to blow your mind. I explain, both of my parents, when they died, I knew it instantly. I wasn't anywhere near them, but I knew it. I felt it. And this is a phenomenon that you ask some mother whose son gets killed halfway around the world in a war, and she'll tell you how she bolted upright in the middle of the night in bed, and her blood ran cold, and she just knew something bad happened. We all get those feelings. I managed to come up with a pretty plausible explanation using science that we already understand to explain how our brains are communicating with each other over vast distances. There's a tiny bit of quantum, mechanics in there, but mostly it's like a big network, and we know the brains are putting out waves. We can measure them, and I build up to this in this book about how this is absolutely plausible, even though we can't understand exactly how it works. It is a way to explain all these things, and that's what I try to do. So anyway, I hope that was another half-hour explanation, but that's the basic story of my life. Now I'm 76 years old and starting over. And starting over again on a new thing, and that's this YouTube stuff, and it's a good thing too, because this has breathed new life into me, guys. It has. I recorded a video 2.5 months ago where I was a message, and you've probably all seen it, where I actually told everybody that this has given me a new purpose and probably saved my life, and I think it really has. I just have problems dealing with stupid people, and unfortunately, some of these people are just mean. These people leave comments that are mean, and I happen to take them. I just don't have the ability to let that crap roll off my back, because of the fact that I want everybody that has anything to do with me to be happy that they do. But these people go out of their way. They have no business listening to me. They're vegan. I got a comment from a guy the other day. He basically says, you're a hypocrite. Oh, I got one today, basically. I was called a hypocrite. How can you smoke cigars and then tell people about health? You have no business talking to people about health. What you don't see right now are 2 middle fingers under the table, standing erect. Why would you do that? You don't like what somebody says? Turn them off. Why do people go out of their way to get insulted so they have a reason to be mean and nasty? But people are like that, and I guess I'm learning to put up with them, and I do. But fortunately, it's not too many. Most of the people that comment are very, very complimentary and flattering, and I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. So I got everybody talking about psychic ability. That's cool. Yeah. At any rate, Mitch, I'm glad you're starting over with carnivore. Yeah, I've been doing this. I've been doing this for 1 year and 3 months, but I was keto before that, and I get so many new people that haven't been with me from the beginning that, you have to keep repeating stories because they don't know these stories. Like the story about my brain surgery 2 years ago. I noticed that in watching the video I recorded today. The sunlight was hitting my head a certain way, and you could see where they cut that hunk of skull out of me. You know, I've had melanoma on my nose. I mean, I've been through enough of this bad health stuff. I had rheumatoid arthritis that would flare up so bad I couldn't bend over and tie my shoes. I had kidney stones that put me in the hospital twice. And I'm always considered myself relatively healthy, which is funny. People would always say, you never get sick. I said, that's because I tried to eat right. Most of the time I was losing weight, but I never could maintain it. I would lose 30, 40 pounds, get down to about 155, and okay, I'm done. I've hit my goal. Time to start eating crap again because I really want it, because I never lost the urge or the desire. The cravings never went away. The diets were always torture. None of them ever do what this carnivore does now. Keto didn't either. As long as I was eating some carbs, and some of those carbs could be something sweet like blueberries or, you know, nuts, that would lead to me eating the whole 3-pound bag of frozen blueberries at one sitting. No matter what my intentions were, I basically had no control. So I had to figure out, why is it? See, I always ask myself why. How come me, a grown-up man, in charge of his life, self-control, why is it when I say to myself, I'm buying this 3-pound bag of blueberries and I'm going to just eat one of those little custard cups full, because that's about 15 grams of carbs, and I'm just going to eat one of those things every day and I'll be fine because I'm strong. I can do that. And the 3-pound bag of blueberries didn't last till tomorrow, because I'd eat that one cup and then it was almost like I was possessed. I would rationalize in my mind, and I would say, and we've all done this. I mean, this has got to sound familiar to everybody in this space, because we're all here because we can't control. If we could control this stuff like some people can, we would be living the rest of our life eating 1 cup of blueberries a day, but or a small amount of ice cream or 1 cookie. But we can't do that. We're carbohydrate addicts. We are drug addicts, worse than alcoholics, worse than cocaine addicts and heroin addicts. And that's why addiction seems to be the main thrust of what I talk about most of the time. We are carb addicts. And I had to figure out why. And I put all these pieces together over the past year or two. And I looked at it, I said, okay, now I know how it works, but where did it come from? Because nothing just happens. Every urge we get, every chemical process, at one point had to be evolutionarily advantageous for survival. So what survival mechanisms would cause a human being to automatically gorge on carbohydrates when you don't get the same feelings from meat? And it's simple. The carbohydrates back as we were coming up were survival food. And it was in our best interest to eat everything in sight when we found it, because it was scarce, it was sparse. You found a bush with berries, you ate every berry on the bush. You found a beehive, you ate all the honey or took it home. I mean, you never left any of that stuff. But yet, when you're talking about eating animal foods, just look at animals. They'll leave half a carcass. They kill it. They kill their prey. They eat the pieces they like best. They just wander off. That's how humans got started. Getting seconds from the lions and other animals. And the animals, those animals went for the fat and the organs. So what did they leave? They left the muscle meat. So we humans came along and said, oh, look, there's that animal with a lot of muscle meat left over. That's food for us. So we adapted to do better on that kind of food. And the lions still eat what they eat. But when there was a shortage of meat, we had to scrounge around. We had to stop being hunters and start being gatherers. Or if we moved into climates, we migrated into climates where there was more and more of these things, then that branch of the humans that were alive adapted to eating more of these fruits, and they develop differently. So if you're the descendant of one of them, maybe you're not a carb addict. But if you're the descendant of somebody that came from the north, like Northern Europe, or came around through that way, then your descendants are going to be carb addicts much easier, because that really was survival food for them. It wasn't plentiful. That's why sometimes, what works for one person doesn't work for the other. Basically, we're all the same, but a lot of the epigenetics are different, and that's another whole field. And that's as important as genetics, too. I'll go into that someday, too. Talk to you about epigenetics and what that means and how that works, and why that is pretty much how traits that are inherited pass on most of that. Anyway, I've gone on long enough about that kind of stuff. Let me get back to it. Did I answer your question about what I did? Now it's on the record twice. Have I lost that? No, I still got people hanging in there. I haven't scared you all away yet. Florida says yes. Thank you. Newsflash, you all. Another one of our community members is here. Thank you, sir. I'd like to acknowledge you guys. Homemade ice cream recipe. Kiltz has got one of those. I never looked at it. I'm more of a bread guy. I'm primarily a bread type of addict. But ice cream is really my downfall. And I told the story many times of finding myself at 3 o'clock in the morning in a Walgreens drugstore buying a half a gallon of ice cream. All the time saying to myself, what are you doing? What are you doing? When your animal mind, when your subconscious mind, which is what really is in control, knows it needs something or wants something, it shuts down your logical thinking. And that's where the phrase, what was I thinking? What the hell was I thinking? How many people have you ever heard say that? What was I thinking? Well, the answer to that question is you weren't thinking. Your brain had gotten turned off so that your subconscious could convince you by some kind of strange rationalization that you need ice cream, and that it's the last time you're going to do it, and you promise you're never going to do it again. And we've all played out that drill so many times. Once you recognize the pattern in it, then you have to say to yourself, how does it happen? How do I have no willpower? And the answer to that is also in actions and traits that have been passed to us that at one point were advantageous for the survival of the species. There were times when the conscious mind was just too slow for the subconscious to allow it to interfere with an almost reflex kind of action that it needed to take to save its life, especially during the times of the hunts, where you're trying to kill this huge animal. So it was beneficial if there was a mechanism to just shut off the frontal lobe. And they can duplicate that now under a PET scan. They can actually watch the frontal lobe shut down, because when sections of the brain are active, they kind of light up in the PET scan, and they watch it just gets turned off as the other centers of the brain start firing themselves up. This is all just not magic. It's fabulous chemistry, but and electronics, because it's not just all organic chemistry. It's electronics too, nervous system, everything working together. It's a crazy machine. Jennifer, you guys are talking about ice cream. He eats too much fruit, too much honey, too many organs, holes and pills. Yeah. that whole Paul Saladino thing, I watched him a year or two ago, and his name is Carnivore MD, and he seemed to make sense. And then all of a sudden, this fruit and honey stuff came out of the blue, and he lives in Costa Rica, where he surfs and eats fruit all day. And that's when I just stopped. So I don't know. I don't follow him anymore. Haven't seen him. Once in a while he shows up somewhere. But we sure do talk a lot. We sure do. Florida says, my brain must be in my mouth. Our Coleman says, hi to me. How you doing? Jennifer likes listening to me. Yeah, I like these. Well, this is the kind of thing I don't, you guys are, just for some reason you don't want to join my private thing for $4 a month. But we do this and talk to each other. It isn't just me speechifying. It's fabulous. It's really, really great. And I hope more and more people will catch on to it. And I'd like to see a lot of you guys join, but if you can't or won't, I understand. I don't join many of these things either. I'm not a member of Ken Berry's private group either. I don't have any questions to ask him. If I needed to talk to him or was having problems that I couldn't figure out, yeah, I'd probably pay $5 a month and join his private group. Unfortunately, even in his private chats, he's still got hundreds of people. And if you want to get and he's, he charges more, and he should. He's entitled, honest to God, he's entitled to every penny that he earns. But this is the way people who work hard on YouTube earn a little extra money, other than the pittance in ad revenue that they pay us. And it is a lot of work. And I hate to ask for it, or hate to do commercials about it. Did I get everybody here? If anybody has another question, ask it to me. Put it in the chat with either 3 capital Q's or the word question typed out in caps, and then I can see it scrolling up and down, because I have a lot of. Oh, here, Andre QQQ. Where's Carlos? Carlos is in New York. And Carlos and I are great friends, but we have differences in opinion that preclude us staying friends if we continue to do the carnivore thing like this. So Carlos is not going to be with me, and there's nothing Carlos did wrong. It's just that we do have some very basic differences of opinion on some very, very relevant topics, and things that I need to rely on to try to explain the stuff that I've figured out. Enough said. But we're still friends, and he's going to come down here. We're going to fly drones together. Anyway, I can talk enough for the both of us. Well, you guys are having a good time in the chat here. Cool. I found an old movie for any of you guys that are carbohydrate addicts that I remember. It's called Fatso. Any of you remember Fatso with Dom DeLuise? It's on YouTube for free. And so anybody who's a carb addict or ever had trouble losing weight will really identify with this movie. It's great. So if you want to see something it's funny too, if you want to see something really funny, Fatso, Fatso, Dom DeLuise. There's a free, you can, just type it in the YouTube search engine. It'll come up. The whole movie is there. I don't think you need to be a premium member of YouTube to see that. I am, because I can't watch those ads. But try it out anyway. Oh, that Z-Star, yeah. Fuzzy Road to Health says, loved your Z-Star video. Yeah, that's great, except you can't find them now. Unbelievable. I'm getting messages from people. Amazon, they're unavailable. So I started getting messages that they were unavailable. So I started looking for them, and they just they sold out of them. Then somebody told me, they said there's a recall. Oh shit, I said. So I went looking for the recall. There's no recall, no mention. Oh, Jim, okay, thank you again. If 3 more chip in at this level, we can get you another ribeye. What health benefits at this point do you wish? Oh, do you wish that I had at 53? Are you 53, Jim? If you're 53, I wish I knew. Jim, I wish that I had the knowledge at 53. Of course, a lot of older people saying that, but when I was 53, that was 20. That's my son's age today. My son is going to be 53 next week. November 14th is my son's birthday. When I was my son's age, we were paleo, Cordain, the paleo diet, I think. Atkins had been around for a while, but people were still poo-pooing the low-carb diet, and they still are today. I mean, nothing's changed. Did you have diabetes or friends who have it? Did they do carnivore? No, I don't. I never had any sugar problems because I would say that 95% of my life, I ate low carb. And that other 5% of the time is when I managed to put that 40, 50 pounds back on. Boom, fast. And then I went on another 1.5 year diet to lose it. And then I lose it, and then 2 months later, boom, it's back. Because I would binge. The minute I fed that beast, that addiction, I went crazy. I would drive home. I'd stop at one of these New York bagel type stores. It had the real bagels. I'd buy 6 of these big, heavy bagels in a bag, and they'd never make it home. I would eat them in the car before I got home. It was absolutely crazy. So I never had a diabetic in my family. I know people, I have friends, certainly in the community where I live, 3/4 of the people are diabetics, but they don't want to know from carnivore. They are the idea of them not eating all that crap is there's nothing else. Why would you want to live if you can't eat? What else does life have to offer other than this food? That's how hard they are addicted to this stuff. I've had a couple of neighbors of mine try. I had a neighbor of mine gave me the whole speech. Oh man, I said, you sure you're gonna do this? Oh man, when I put my mind, you ever heard somebody, when I put my mind to this, by God, I'm not one of these people. If I tell you I'm going to do it, you can take it to the bank. Boy, I got the whole speech, and he lasted 3 days before I found him at the swimming pool eating Doritos and some other crap. And then, of course, he rationalized it. Well, business is a little slow. Things are a little tense now. And this guy's 20 years younger than me. I was making a joke of my little walking tour around the community. I said, hell, I'm beginning to feel like the wise old man in the community. It's a 55 plus. That means there's people moving in here that are over 20 years younger than me. People my son's age are moving in. You talk about feeling old when you become the senior citizen in the retirement community. The good news is I think I look younger than a lot of them. So at any rate, no, I don't know anybody who's a diabetic. I know you hear the anecdotal evidence all over YouTube of all of these people, especially in Dr. Berry's chats and everything, that they've fixed it. My A1C is 4.9, and The highest I can ever remember it being is like 5.1. I do get blood tests every year at the VA. Why not? But that's a whole nother subject. Fast Eddie's got a question. Hey, Mitch, I see you eat regular bacon and grain-fed beef. Any reason you don't eat uncured bacon with grass-fed beef? Well, first of all, I can't find grass-fed beef. I've been trying to find a local farmer. Second of all, I don't think you need grass-fed beef. I don't think that. I'll tell you. Here, I'll get into this just a little bit. Even the people who know about it. You got Anthony Chaffee doesn't eat grass-fed beef. None of these guys do. I don't think Ken Berry does either. I mean, a lot of them do. They say that it tastes different. Maybe that's one thing. They say Ken Berry says there's maybe Shawn Baker. I don't know if he does or not, but they say that it's maybe 5% difference. All right, so have another ounce or two to make up for the nutrients that might not have been in the first pound of beef you ate. I think grain-fed beef is tastier because that's when the meat gets marbled. Because the grain, just like in a human body, is turned into fat by the cow. And this fat has nowhere to go. Like in the humans, it goes, you get fatty liver, and you can even get intermuscular fat. So humans, if they eat enough of this crap, will start to have well-marbled meat, just like a fat cow. The grain that they eat isn't what you find in the meat. Okay? Just like the cow eats grass, you don't find the grass in the meat either. The grain and the grass and everything they eat is processed by the cow, and pretty much the same fatty acids are extracted from it. So it's these fatty acids that become the fat in the meat, and whether these fatty acids came from bacteria in the hindgut of the cow producing them, or whether they came from the liver processing the sugar in the grains, makes no difference. It's the same molecule. It's still a fatty acid. So when you eat a grain-fed cow, you're not eating sugar. You're not eating grain. You're eating the end product of what the cow's metabolism did to that sugar. So same thing, that's the beef. So you're not getting, you do get a little tiny bit of carbohydrates in beef, because beef contains glycogen, which is a sugar substance. And yeah, but that's just not much, and it doesn't really hurt you. That's why I said you can't take this stuff to molecular extremes. Plus, it's friggin' ridiculously expensive to try to find, these local farmers. I'm hoping that as meat demand goes up, and I think it is, that more and more of these local ranchers will come online and start, maybe meat will get real competitive, Maybe it'll become a booming business again once the world regains its lost mind. As far as the cured bacon, there's not enough. It's very easy. You gotta have some faith. The bacon I use is Wright's. Okay, the word sugar doesn't appear anywhere on the package. But even if it said sugar cured, look at the carbohydrate count and look at the serving size. Okay, this Wright stuff's a 1/4 inch thick, and it says 0 carbs in one slice. 4 slices of this bacon is a 1/2 pound, and that's what I eat pretty much every day. A 1/2 pound of this bacon. It doesn't look like they're pulling any tricks like small serving sizes so they can get the grams down under 1 so that they can say 0 or less than 1. There's no other stuff in it, but it is cured, but it's hickory smoked. That's how they cure it. And all I can tell you is this morning I stepped on the scale. I mean, I eat 1/2 pound of this stuff a day. I eat 4, 5, 6 eggs, and at least a pound or more of some other kind of meat. I eat it within a 4-hour window. I may eat my first meal around 11 or 12, and 3 or 4 I eat my second meal. And I got on my scale this morning. I weighed 138 pounds. Same as I weighed 3 weeks ago, same as I weighed 2 months ago. I don't go up and down an ounce. I have no sugar cravings, so I'm not getting anything that's triggering a craving from me. And I feel great, and I'm healthy. And for somebody my age, there's people in my development, they're 20 years younger than me that look older than I do, and they're sick and fat diabetics and on the way out in their 50s. I can't be that much of a perfectionist. That's why I made that video this morning. I don't want people to think that I'm one of these militant my way or the highway guys. You can't get an ounce or a molecule of this other stuff. It's going to kill you. It's poison. No. We're very resilient, we humans. We adapt to a lot of things. And I made this video this morning about not seeking perfection because I've known people. My second wife was like that. It had to be perfect. It can't be. There is no such thing. There's always a little something wrong that isn't perfect. Nobody can be perfect. And the quest for perfection just makes you nuts. You have to choose your battles. Choose your battles. Do the best you can. And if you identify a problem, then turn to whatever it is that's causing that particular problem and focus on that. But if once every 6 months I take my DeBaye carbon steel pan and scour it out and need to reseason it, if once every 6 months I put it on that hot stove and squirt 1 squirt of grapeseed oil in it, rub it around, and let it polymerize where it doesn't come off. For somebody to tell me that is going to sabotage everything else that I do to be healthy because 10 molecules of something like that, give me a break. You can't worry about that kind of stuff. You just can't. It's absurd. Nobody can keep track of that kind of stuff. So my philosophy of carnivore is different. It's so different. I don't tell you what to worry about. I don't tell you what to count. I don't tell you what to look after. I don't tell you what blood, keto meters and what your ketones ought to be and what your ketone to glucose ratio and if you do like I do, I get a blood test once a year and I look and see what my vitamin D, vitamin B, and if it's in the mid-normal range, I figure whatever I'm doing is okay. And if I'm not doing something that's that seriously wrong, I will not feel well. And then I'll start looking to find a problem. But to think that we could actually micromanage everything that's going on in our body by adjusting the amounts, a little bit of this, that we have to give it a little bit more tomorrow or a little bit less. First of all, our bodies store most of these vitamins where we have a month's supply of these vitamins. And when we get a little more than we need, it puts it away. We're not like a FedEx truck, when the product goes out the front door, the truck better be coming in the back door. We have developed everything we need to regulate ourselves. And I think in most cases, we need to just stay out of the way. And I keep telling people the one thing that you need to worry about is just what you eat. Make sure you eat enough food, eat the right food, make sure you get the fat, make sure you're eating fatty food. If you're not getting enough fat, you'll be constipated. If you're eating too much fat, you'll have diarrhea. There you go. You got a built-in gauge to tell you just exactly whether you're doing it right or wrong. You start to get plugged up, add a little more fat. You start to get a little loose, eat a little less fat. But if you just eat the food as it comes, if you just eat the bacon and the eggs and the steaks, you're probably getting almost exactly the right amount of fat. Question, do you still need electrolytes? Yeah, there are minerals. Now, minerals are a different story because minerals are not organic. They're not molecules. They're not organic chemicals. Vitamins and those things are hydrocarbons. Most of the molecules in the human body are made up of 3 elements: hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. And the minerals play little roles in the potassium and the phosphorus and the zinc and boron, chromium, and trace. All those trace elements have places in certain reactions where they plug in and act as catalysts and do other things. But primarily we're carbon, oxygen, and we're carbon and water, basically, is what we are. That's why they call us carbon-based life. Electrolytes are just minerals. Magnesium, potassium, sodium, calcium. That stuff exists in soil, in topsoil. So the animals would eat the grass that grew out of the soil. The electrolytes would go out of the soil into the grass, from the grass into the cow, from the cow into the human. Iodine, things like that. Well, with all of our brilliant wonder and understanding, we have raped most of the farmland and destroyed so much of the topsoil that they're deficient in a lot of these. So even though you might be eating the right meat and all that, you may not be getting these electrolytes that you need because they're not in the animal. And electrolytes can't break down. They're just elements. You overcook a steak, you're not going to ruin the electrolytes in it. But we might need it. So yeah, I take a supplement because why not? And the way you can tell, there's a lot of symptoms of, magnesium. I take magnesium citrate. That keeps that acts as a mild laxative too. And keeps things moving. And you can get leg cramps if you get short on potassium or magnesium. So see how you feel. You can't you're certainly not going to overdose on these things. And I take once or twice a day. Believe it or not, I hate to say this, but I buy this Dr. Berg's stuff because I like it. Even has a little stevia in it, and I mix it with San Pellegrino in a big thing with ice, and I sip on it, and I enjoy it. Tastes good, and I get my electrolytes, and I take 1 capsule, about 400 milligrams of magnesium citrate. Magnesium citrate has a nice little laxative effect. One of the other things that, when you're talking bathroom talk, if you're just starting out on a carnivore diet, one of the things that's going to happen to you is you're not going to go to the bathroom a lot. You're not going to. And you're going to start to worry, and you start thinking you're constipated. First question to ask yourself is, do you feel bloated? Do you feel stuffed up? The answer is going to be no. You're just not putting much stuff through. And the reason is it's all being absorbed before it ever gets to your colon. By the time all that meat is the easiest food in the world for a human to digest. We've got this tremendously acidic stomach. And by the time the meat gets through the stomach and gets through the small intestine, it's all gone. Every bit of it. There's no fiber. There's no waste. You're not trying to separate the food from the landscaping and the wood and the cellulose. And I know this sounds strange. Every 5-6 days I go now, and not even a lot. And I've been doing that for a year. So obviously, and I'm not gaining any weight, so none of it's hanging around. So I finally had to prove to myself. I said, well, yeah, it's real. It's real. You just don't make waste. You just don't make waste. Some people go every day. Everybody's a little different. But I was always had a screwed up digestive tract. I would have to take laxatives all the time. And then they told you, Metamucil, got to eat more fiber. Well, that causes the problems. That doesn't solve them. Why do they think? Why do these people in the medical community think that it's so important to feed sugar-loving bacteria in your gut by feeding them fiber? Maybe we'd be better off without that sugar-loving bacteria in our gut. And that's what happens to the microbiome. The microbiome readjusts itself based on what's coming by. And if a food for a specific species of bacteria doesn't come by, that bacteria goes away. And your microbiome will change and adapt to exactly what your diet is. And it seems to me that since our species diet was mostly meat, that the correct microbiome that we need is one that's adapted to mostly meat. And that's why most carnivores have very few, if any, digestive problems once they get used to the fact that, I can't even imagine these vegans. They must go 5 times a day with all the crap they keep stuffing, because all they're eating is wood and landscaping. It's nuts. It's nuts. Question. Mitch, once you mentioned Dr. Bergen said you weren't happy with something he said. What was it? I don't really want to get into that. I mean, he does his thing. He does his thing. There's, a lot of people have a problem with his association with Scientology. A lot of people have a problem with the fact that he seems to end up recommending some supplement or other that he happens to sell. Maybe that's it. It just seemed, just bad taste. That's all. Listen, when he had this little thing where YouTube was, I thought YouTube was trying to cancel him. I put out that video. He wrote me an email. It's a nice email too, explaining his side of it to me, and he watched some of my videos and he really complimented me. He was a nice guy. Now I don't know whether he just wanted me to go to bat for him or not, but I personally, I don't have a problem with him. We all have our thing. But the electrolytes that he puts his name on happen to have in them what I want, and that is a lot of potassium. They have 1,000 milligrams of potassium per serving, whereas the element has much less than that, 80, maybe 200. I forget offhand. But again, I don't count any. I really don't count things. If somebody said to me, "How many calories you eat in a day?" I said, "Who knows? I don't care. I don't count anything. When I'm hungry, I eat. When my appetite is satisfied, I stop eating. It's so simple." And it seems to work better when you don't try to overcomplicate it, unless you have medical problems. Unfortunately, people our age, most of them have to deal with problems. They're on medication, and anything you put in your body is going to interfere with the normal way your body works. Andre says carnivore poop stinks. Actually, I've found the opposite to be true, but we always end up talking about that, don't we? Yeah, I used to have to take Senna. You all know what that is. I used to have to take sometimes 4 big capsules full of that stuff just to get things moving, and I was always miserable. But I was eating more fiber, like they said. In my entire life, I've never felt as good and light, basically, as I do right now. It's incredible. I like the heat and humidity. Okay, you guys. Well, we're coming on an hour and 45. Time flies, doesn't it? Time flies. Well, we're still got a bunch of people watching. I hope I didn't. Steve Chase, yes, we should keep it simple. Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that. No salt is potassium. Well, there are anything can any mineral can become a salt. Potassium chloride is a salt, just like sodium chloride is a salt. Whether it's just table salt or something you want to eat a lot of, that's another story. Newsflash, y'all. Andre, I use no salt. You should eat salt. Salt is a very important. Sodium is a very important mineral. It's so important that the amount of sodium in the blood is regulated very, very tightly. Cranky carnivore. Andre, I'm finding that. Okay, you guys are all talking to each other. Well, listen, guys. I had a good time. I enjoyed it tonight. And Jim, thank you so much for those super chats. Very much appreciated. And check out the website at oldguycarnivore.com and all the links to all the stuff I use except the out-of-stock Z-Star. I like that thing too. It works great. Maybe it'll come back in stock. Oh, I wanted to show you guys. You've heard me talking about the new camera. I wanted to show you this thing. I mean, this is, if you guys have you heard of the, that's it. That's a DJI called a Pocket 3. And it's got a gimbal up top like a drone gimbal. And you flip this screen and it comes on. And that thing goes like that. And it's absolutely incredible. This last couple of videos. In fact, I have to be careful because you guys are starting to count the hairs on my beard. It makes me look, when you get things that sharp, every little tiny little wrinkle in your skin. So, but this is incredible, and it's got all kinds of different accessories. It's got a handle like this. So when I'm out there walking, I just put this on it, and I just basically hold it out in front of me, like this, and then I can turn the gimbal around to face me, and it's fully stabilized. So no matter what I do with the camera, you see the gimbal is staying straight no matter how I move the camera. Here, I'll turn it around so you can see the gimbal. See it? So I can be bouncing around and walking and doing this and that, and yet the picture perfectly straight. And it has a wireless mic that comes with it. So the sound is great. So I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased with it. And this little base here, you get me going on, we'll have a technology show. This is a little tripod too. So you can sit it down. I can use this as a webcam. It's crazy. The technology is just crazy. Just crazy. Anyway, that's the new toy. If this isn't fun, why do it? I hope I answered your questions. If I didn't get to you, I'm sorry. Jennifer, if you've got a Z-Star, hang on to it, baby, because maybe you may not be able to find them, and it really works great. That steak that I made the other night in it, I was so surprised. You see what that looked like when I cut that thing? It tasted every bit as good as it looked. And I think the next time I'm going to do a video because I'm going to try it. I'm going to experiment. A lot of people have told me to do it frozen. How easy would that be? Take it right out of the freezer and just throw it in that thing. Because what happens is you want the outside to get a little more burnt. You want it to have a little crunchier. And if the inside starts out frozen, you can really go to town on the outside before the inside comes up to the proper temperature. So I'm going to give that a whirl, and I'll make a video of it when I do. So I want to see all you guys out there with big ass knives, and I'm telling you, I just started doing this, but when you take a big wooden cutting board and put a big hunk of meat on it and cut it with a big ass knife and eat it off the wood cutting, it's a whole different experience. I mean, restaurants serve things to people in these big wooden things. It really does something to your head. it makes it more fun, and it is a great feeling hanging on to that big knife, especially if somebody like a home invasion would happen. I'd be ready. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it a night, and because before I lose my voice completely here. So we will bring up the music. I don't think I forgot anything. There we go. And as usual, Open Mind says he wants the Mitch knife. Listen, thanks for coming, guys. I enjoy having it's like having you all over, you know. I enjoy it. Thursday night, I haven't seen you all jump in to join our private community but if you decide to do it before Thursday, you will see a post, and then it'll show up in your feed, a link to the private chat, and we're having a great time. So, love for you to join me. All right, I'm going to give you all the rest of the day off, at least here, 2 hours and 10 minutes of it, and you know what comes next. Eat meat.